I used to be a skeptic. Ghosts, hauntings. It was all just stories people told to scare themselves, right? At least that's what I thought before I moved into the old house on 13 Willow Lane. Now, I'm not so sure. It all started a few months ago when I bought the house. It was a great deal, too good to pass up, and the place had character. Built in the early 1900s, it was one of those old Victorian-style homes with creaky floors, high ceilings, and more rooms than I knew what to do with. The previous owners had left in a hurry, but I didn't think much of it at the time. I figured they were just eager to move on. The first few weeks were uneventful. I spent my days unpacking, decorating, and getting used to the odd creaks and groans of the old house settling. But then, things started to change. One night, I was sitting in the living room, enjoying a quiet evening alone. The fire crackled softly in the hearth, and I was lost in a book. That's when I heard it. A soft knock, faint but unmistakable. It came from upstairs. I froze, my eyes darting toward the ceiling. Maybe it was just the house, I told myself. Old houses make noise. But then it came again, louder this time, a distinct, rhythmic knock. I tried to ignore it, but curiosity got the better of me. I put down the book and crept upstairs, the floorboards groaning beneath my feet. I followed the sound to the hallway outside the guest bedroom. The knocking had stopped by the time I reached the door. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the doorknob. My heart pounded in my chest, but I told myself it was nothing, probably just the wind. I opened the door slowly, peering into the dark room. It was empty, of course. I exhaled, feeling a bit silly for getting worked up over nothing, and turned to leave. That's when I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, something moved. A shadow, just at the edge of the doorway. I whipped around, but the room was still empty. I stood there for a moment, staring into the darkness, my pulse racing. Maybe I was just tired. I shut the door and went back downstairs, trying to shake the uneasy feeling creeping up my spine. For the next few nights, the knocking continued, always coming from upstairs, always late at night. It became harder to ignore, especially when I started hearing other sounds, soft whispers, like someone murmuring just out of earshot. I'd walk into a room and feel a sudden chill, the temperature dropping for no reason. And the shadows, they seemed to move just at the edge of my vision, disappearing the moment I turned my head. One night, things escalated. I had just settled into bed when I heard it again. The knock, louder than before, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps. My heart raced as I lay there, frozen, listening. The footsteps were slow, deliberate, moving down the hallway toward my room. I pulled the covers up to my chin, every muscle in my body tense. The footsteps stopped just outside my door. I held my breath, waiting, listening. Then, slowly, the doorknob began to turn. I jumped out of bed, grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a baseball bat, and flung open the door. The hallway was empty. I stood there, bat in hand, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. The air felt heavy, thick with a presence I couldn't see, but knew was there. That's when the whispers started again, soft, indistinct, but growing louder. They seemed to come from everywhere at once, surrounding me. I stumbled back into my room, slamming the door behind me. The whispers didn't stop. They grew louder, more insistent, like 100 voices all speaking at once. And then, over the noise, I heard something else. Laughter. A low, mocking laugh, as if whatever was in the house found my fear amusing. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the corner of my room, gripping the bat, my eyes darting to every shadow, every flicker of movement. By morning, the whispers had stopped, but the house felt different, darker, oppressive. Over the next few days, things only got worse. Objects began moving on their own. I'd leave the room for a moment and come back to find chairs tipped over, books pulled from the shelves, or the windows flung open. I'd hear footsteps pacing the floors at night, but no one would be there when I went to check. I called a friend to stay over, thinking maybe I was just losing it. But even he heard the footsteps, the knocking, the whispers. We both tried to act tough, but by the third night, he refused to stay another minute in the house. One night I woke to find a figure standing at the foot of my bed. It was a woman, her face pale and gaunt, her eyes hollow and black. She stood there watching me, her mouth twisted into a grim smile, I couldn't move, couldn't speak. It was like she was draining the life out of me just by being there. Then, as suddenly as she appeared, she was gone. That was the last straw. I packed up and left the house the next morning. I don't know what it was that haunted that place, but I couldn't stay there another night. I put the house up for sale, but part of me wonders if anyone else will ever believe what happened there. I thought leaving the house would be the end of it. I moved into a small apartment across town, trying to forget everything that happened at 13 Willow Lane. But the thing is, some ghosts don't stay behind. Some things, once they've noticed you, follow you. At first, I told myself I was just paranoid, that the stress of what I'd gone through in that house had me seeing things. The first few nights in the apartment were quiet. I felt relief, even if it was temporary. No whispers, no footsteps. The air felt lighter, like I could finally breathe. But that peace didn't last long. A week after I'd moved in, I woke up in the middle of the night. It was that same feeling as before, like someone was watching me. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding, and scanned the room. Everything looked normal, but I couldn't shake the unease. I tried to convince myself it was just a bad dream, but then I heard it, a soft knock. My blood ran cold. The knock was coming from the closet. Just one single knock, like someone gently tapping on the door from the inside. My eyes were glued to the closet door, my mind racing. I knew I hadn't imagined it. I got out of bed trying to move quietly and tiptoed over to the door. My hand trembled as I reached for the knob, but before I could open it, the knock came again, louder this time. I yanked the door open, expecting to find something or someone, but it was empty, just rows of hanging clothes untouched. I backed away slowly, shutting the door. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was the old pipes or the apartment settling. But the knocking became a regular occurrence, always at night, always coming from the closet. And it wasn't just the knocking. I started waking up in strange places, sometimes on the couch, other times standing in the kitchen as if I'd been sleepwalking. But the worst part was the cold. My apartment would suddenly drop in temperature, so cold that I could see my breath, even though it was the middle of summer. One night, I came home from work late, exhausted. I tossed my bag on the floor, too tired to care about the knocking or the cold. I just wanted to sleep. But as soon as I lay down, I felt it. The air around me grew heavy, oppressive. And then the smell hit me. It was faint at first, but unmistakable, the scent of rotting flowers. It filled the room, growing stronger by the second. I shot up, gagging from the stench, and that's when I saw it. Standing in the corner of my room was the same figure from 13 Willow Lane. The woman, with her hollow eyes and twisted smile, just watching me. She didn't move, didn't speak. She just stood there, staring. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I couldn't move, frozen in place as she slowly lifted her arm and pointed toward the closet. My heart was racing, and every instinct in my body told me not to look, not to open that door. But I couldn't stop myself. It was like something was pulling me toward it. My hand wrapped around the doorknob, and before I could stop myself, I opened it. Inside, crouched in the dark, was a man. His body twisted and contorted like he'd been stuffed inside. His eyes were wide and empty, his mouth hanging open as if he'd been screaming for help that never came. I stumbled back, choking on fear. The smell of decay filled the room, and I could hear the whispers again. Those same soft voices from the house, growing louder, more insistent. The man's hand reached out toward me, his fingers curling in a silent plea for help. But I couldn't move. I was paralyzed, trapped in that moment. Then, the woman stepped forward, her eyes never leaving mine, and the man in the closet disappeared. The whispers stopped. The room went silent. I collapsed onto the floor, gasping for air. I don't remember how long I lay there, but when I finally got up, the room was empty. No woman, no man, no smell, just silence. But I knew then that it wasn't over. Whatever haunted 13 Willow Lane had followed me. It wasn't just the house. It was something worse. something that had attached itself to me. I tried everything after that. I called in a priest, burned sage, even looked up old rituals online. Nothing worked. The knocking continued, the cold came back, and the shadows in the corners of my vision never left. I was being hunted, haunted by something I couldn't escape. Every night I hear the footsteps outside my door, the whispers calling my name. And I know, deep down, that no matter where I go, no matter how far I run, she'll always find me. This thing, it doesn't stop, it doesn't leave. And I'm not sure how much longer I can last. Maybe one day, I'll wake up and open the closet again, and this time, I won't be alone. I don't know what will happen when that day comes, but I have a feeling I won't survive it.